Hi, this is Dave and welcome to the Table, a series of videos where I review and discuss various board and card games looking at them from a family perspective. Today we're going to be taking a look at Cinque Terre from Rio Grande Games. Now Cinque Terre is a 2 to 5 player pick up and deliver game where you're working as a farmer, traveling around out into the fields to gather up various produce items to sell them to the 5 villages. Now, you will be working in competition against the other players to complete various produce order cards in order to get the most lira. Let's take a look at this game and how it's played, and I'll come back and I'll give you my thoughts. Okay, let's take a quick look at all of the components that come in Cinque Terre. First of all, you've got the game board here where all the action's going to be taking place along the 5 villages here, along the coast, and there's a road that goes along here to visit these different fields. So that's where the main action is going to be, and then over to the side here there are marks on the game board for some of the cards that will be played in the game. The cards that are going to be played on the table are what's called these produce cards, and each of them you'll be able to draw them, and they have the different types of goods. For example, here's some mushrooms, here's some zucchini, and we have oranges, grapes, olives, and just so all of the goods that are in the game. And speaking of the goods that are in the game, we have cubes that represent them all. And starting at the top and moving from left to right, the red ones are tomatoes, the yellow ones are zucchini, the orange ones are oranges, white is garlic, black are olives, yellow is lemons, purple is grapes, and the gray ones are mushrooms. We also have these nice little wooden trucks that will be used on the game board. Those are your carts that you will be driving around and delivering produce from the fields to the different villages. We also have these cards here. These are produce order cards, and if you look at one of them, for example, in the different cities you have to deliver these specific items, and then you will be able to claim these and score points. We also have these other ones that are off to the side here that have stars on them, and these are like a secret starting order, and these are worth a bunch more. So if you get one of these, you have to deliver each of those particular goods, and you'll be able to score more points. And the points are tracked in lira, which is the Italian currency. You also come with a dice bag, and on the board there are a number of dice that come with the game, and those are used to determine the selling price for the different items in the villages. We also have some award placards over here for the most popular vendor, and then we have a scoring track for each of the players, and this will be able to, you'll place all of the cubes that you've delivered to each of the villages on there, and then there's also a nice little summary of what the actions that you can perform, and then some scoring at the bottom. So that's the game, and let me show you how the game is set up and how to play the game. Okay, to set up the game for play, we're going to randomly just place the different produce items in the various fields in order to be harvested. Now I've set the game up for 3 players, and so the game comes with 16 cubes for each color, and so for 3 players we use 14, so the extra ones are just taken out of play and put off to the side. So I'm just going to grab a handful, like for example I'm going to grab these mushrooms here, and I'm going to place them on this field right here. I'll take some olives and I'm just going to put them down here because I feel like it. Maybe I'll put the garlic up at the top here. Lemons I'm going to put over here. I'll put some zucchini down here on the board, and we'll put some oranges up at the top here, and we'll put the tomatoes over here, and we'll put the grapes down at the bottom. So, and on the board there's different little fields, and you'll be able to see there's like a distinction as to where they're placed on the field. There's this particular field, stop here, there's 3 things that you can harvest from. This one here is only 2, and this one up at the top again is only 3. Next, what I've done is I've taken one of each of the colors of the die, and they represent the goods, and I've put them in this dice bag. I'm going to give it a shake, and I'm going to pull one of them out, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it, and I will place it starting with these two cities here, Monterosso and Rio Maggiore, and we will be able to determine the price and what's being sold. So the first dice that I pull out happens to be a mushroom, so I'm going to roll it, and it's going to be a 1, and I'll place it up on the little question mark up on the board. You can see there. And pulled out a tomato, we'll place that there. Pull out the next one here. This is a 2 for the lemons. 6 for garlic down at the bottom. We'll roll the other die. There's a 1 for grapes down here. There's a 1 there. There's a 1. Wow, these are low rolls. And finally another one here. There's another 1. Wow, that doesn't really do any good there. So, and then finally what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other 5 cubes. I'll put them in the bag, and I will do the same for the other 3 villages that are in the middle. Okay, so I went ahead and I finished setting up Cinque Terre, and I have it set up for 3 players. And what I did was I took the other 8 dice and I put them in the dice bag, and I pulled them out and I rolled them, and I filled them in the spaces for the 3 villages in the middle. So you can see all these dice here, and I'll explain what those mean in a minute. I also took these produce cards over here. I shuffled them up, and I dealt each player a starting hand of 4 cards face down, and I have this 4 cards here face up that are out on the board as well. I then took each player was dealt a starting order card, and I'll flip this over. This is ours, and what it is for each of the 5 villages, a specific good. You need to make sure you want to try to sell them there in order to meet this goal, in order to score 30 additional points. So for example, here in Monterosso, we want to sell a garlic there, and a lemon in Vernazza, grapes in Corniglia, zucchini in Manarola, and an orange in Rio Maggiore. So that's where we're going to want to try. We're going to want to try and reach that goal. And then what else I have done is there are these order cards that are over on the side, which I will get to. And I shuffled them up, and I dealt 3 of these face up, 1 for each number of players, and then I have this stack off to the side as well. Each player then took their respective player board here, and they simultaneously, at the same time, they placed their cart anywhere on one of the field paths, like field locations here. We couldn't start off in any of the villages. They have to be out in the fields there. And they could have as many on a space as possible, so more than one person can occupy a space at a time. And then I took these most popular vendor cards, and there's 1 for each of the 5 villages, and I placed them off to the side of the board. And let me explain to you what those do. During the course of the game, we're going to be gathering up these produce items, and we're going to be loading them up in our cart, and we're going to be selling them at these different villages, because that's what we're supposed to do. That's our job. And then, but there are ways for you to gain additional points, and that's by becoming the most popular vendor. And how you can become the most popular vendor in each of the villages is if you are the first person to deliver 8 goods. Doesn't matter what they are. The first one to deliver 8 goods to that particular village, you would become the most popular vendor, and you would be able to score that card. So it's possible that if you play the game well enough, you can become a popular vendor in more than one location. So that's how the game is set up. And what I also did was I took these starting tokens, which are placed over here, and I had placed them in the dice bag, and I drew them out. And the first one that I drew out will signify who the first player is, which would be the light brown. And then I stacked them up all on the 100 space. That's where they start off on the game. Let me show you how this, a little bit more about the game board here, and that has to do with these dice, and what they signify is how much the village will pay for specific items. They'd almost be like a specialty item. Now, I could sell any of these goods at a village, but I would only get 1 lira. Now, for example, if we look here in Manarola, these specialty items here are lemons and olives and oranges. Well, if I sell lemons here, I'm going to get 4 lira. I will get 5 for olives and I'll get 6 for oranges. Whereas if I look at the village above here in Cornelia, I'm going to get 5 for mushrooms and 4 for tomatoes. So there is some strategy as to where you're going to want to sell your goods in order to make the most lira, because whoever has the most lira wins the game. So now the object of this game is to move around and collect or harvest various produce goods and sell them in the villages in order to score points. Now the village cards that are off to the side, or the produce order cards that are off to the side, let me explain to you what those do. And for example, right here in this card, it's worth 10 points, and if I deliver an orange in Cornelia and a mushroom in Rio Maggiore, I will be able to claim this card and gain 10 points. So let me show you how a turn order goes and how the game is played, and you'll get an idea of how Cinque Terre works. So what I have done is I am the light brown player here, and the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look at what my goals are here and what I'm going to want to deliver. I'm also going to take a look at my opening hand of 4 cards, which I happen to have 3 tomatoes and a grape. So I will be able to do a few things on my turn. First of all, I'll be able to move up to 4 spaces clockwise, so I can move around as much as I needed. That's one of my actions. I would be able to draw a produce card from either the face-up ones here or the face-down card stack. Or I'd be able to harvest produce. I can harvest up to 4 pieces at any one space. So I would be able to, like for example here, what I would do is I would trade these in and I would be able to collect that many goods. Or I would be able to harvest any one produce for 2 produce cards of the same kind. So for example, maybe I'm staying on this space here and I don't have any oranges in my hand, but I wanted to grab one. What I would be able to do is I'd be able to trade 2 in and be able to take one of those oranges. So on my turn, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move 1 space. That's one of my actions. I can move up to 4, but I'm going to move 1. My second action, what I'm going to do is I'm going to harvest these 3 produce items here, these 3 tomatoes. And I will put those 3 face up in the discard pile. And I will take these 3 items, 3 tomatoes, and I'm going to put them face up, or put them in my cart on my player board. So I have them right here. On my third action, I'm going to move 1, 2, and then finally on my fourth action, what I'm going to do is I will sell these items. And what I'm going to do is then I will take them, and I'm down in the town of Rio Maggiore. I'm going to take these 3 items and I will place them in my cart right here. And since they are just a regular normal item down there, I will score 3 lira. So I'll go 1, 2, so I'll be up to 3 over there. And that will be my turn. Now, if you notice, I only have 1 card left in my hand. Well, in order for me to gain more cards, I'm going to have to use actions on another turn to draw them up. So each of the players are going to continue to do this in an attempt to match these points. Now, for example, here, to gain 10 points, I already have tomatoes sold here at Rio Maggiore. If I manage to move around and grab an olive and sell it at Cornelia, I would be able to get 10 points if one of the other players doesn't get it first. Now, once one of those these produce order cards are scored, what I would do, assuming that I would do this, I would take this, I would move up 10 lira on the scoring track and place this face down in my pile to signify that I scored it. I would deal another one face up, And then I would also take an additional one that's face down that's kind of secret for me to kind of work on as well. So I will now have an additional card here that I could work on trying to score in addition to my starting one and the ones that are on the table. Okay, the end of the game is going to be triggered in one of two ways. First way is going to be the first player who manages to complete 5 of these produce orders and or most popular vendor tokens. So there could be, you could just complete 5 of these and trigger the end of the game, or maybe you have 3 of these and you're also the most popular vendor in 2 villages if you have 2 of those. So any combination of 5 will trigger the end of the game. Or if there are any 2 fields out here that no longer have goods to be harvested from, those are going to trigger the end of the game. At the end of the game, all the scoring, what you will do is you will make sure that you've already added up all of your points so far, and then if you did not complete your starting order here, you will there will be a penalty, and that's going to be variable depending upon the value of the goods and how they're paid in the village and those number of points. And then also for each incomplete like secret order card that you will have in your hand, you will be penalized 5 lira. Once all the scores have been calculated, the player who has the most lira wins the game. Okay, let's talk about Cinque Terre from Rio Grande Games. And first of all, I want to start off talking about the artwork for this game. And it starts off even with the box itself. It's got a really nice feel for the game. When you're looking at what's going on, you see the market here, and you're in the village, and you've got your little produce cart here, and you're delivering items. So this kind of gives you an overall feel of what the game is going to be like. Looking at the game board itself, and that's very, very nice too, and how the board is laid out. I like you've got the action over to the one side with the 5 different villages along the coastline, and then you've got the different spots to go up into the fields to be able to harvest your produce. And then off to the side, you have enough room on the game board where the produce cards are laid out in a nice and neat fashion, and there's little outlines for where the cards go on the board. So that was really, really smart thinking, and helps to really keep the game and managing the game board itself very, very neat. And another aspect of the game board that I like is that the scoring track kind of with the little yellow and orange just kind of makes it a little bit more bright, the sunshine. And so, as a farmer, you want the sun to be out and you're working and harvesting and stuff. So that kind of adds to make the game give it a brighter feel to it. Now, looking at the components, I think that there was a good choice in going with all wooden components, including the dice, because it gives it kind of a more earthy feel to the game. So I like that. I like that aspect, and I'm not a fan of wooden dice in playing games, but for this one it works. So I do like that. And then the cubes, it just kind of gives it just that nice overall feel, and it makes a great way to count what you're going to be harvesting. And then it's just wooden cubes just kind of really make the game. I think it just kind of adds to the game, makes it a more of a simplistic, but yet it gives the game just the right feel, especially with the wood. I like the cards themselves have the Italian text on there to give it a little bit of flavor, so that gives it overall just a really nice a nice touch. And then the order cards, they're very well laid out in terms of matching up what you need to make to fill up your orders. So I like that too. Looking at the game from a gameplay standpoint, this game has somewhat of some randomness, with the dice rolling in terms of essentially what the market's going to pay. So that and what particular village wants what. So from game to game, because you're randomly drawing a die out and rolling it, things are going to change around. So you're not going to fall into the same repetitive pattern. In addition, where you place those the different produce items, that changes from game to game because you just randomly just pick where you want to go. They're not in a specific place every time. So again, it gives it a lot of replayability that way. Now, strategy in this game, I was really surprised by this game. In fact, I like this game. And, you know, a lot of times in a pick up and deliver game, there's really not a whole lot that's going on. You're just going around, just grabbing something and going back. But this, you know, in addition, yes, we are doing that, but there is a lot more to it. There's a lot of strategy that's involved in how you're going to manage your turns in picking up stuff and delivering it, because you have what the market is paying essentially in each of these villages, what you can sell goods there for. You know, that's going to change. Are you going to go and try to sell them for more money in a particular village opposed to trying to complete some of the produce order cards? Or are you going to specifically try to get working on your starting order card? Or are you just going to try and grab items and sell them and try to become the most popular vendor? So there's a lot of different avenues about how you're going to go around and manage your turns. Now, the one thing that can become challenging to you and with this game, and that comes with the set collection with the cards, is, you know, on your turn, you know, depending on what you have in your hand, you're going to have to manage your hand as to what items you're going to want to grab and harvest and sell them. So there's quite a bit to this game that way, but it's not too heavy because this game, my 7-year-old niece, she played the game with us and she managed to grab on the concept of the game, and she actually did pretty well for herself. Now, looking at this game from a family perspective, there are several things going on here that would make this game a worthwhile investment to add to a library. And that's going to be, number one, looking at the game itself. We'll look at the region and geography. You know, we're looking at a specific area in Italy along the coastline, and if you look at the items that are produced, we're looking at like tomatoes and zucchini and garlic and mushrooms and oranges and lemons and olives and you know, all of those different things all come together. There's an easy correlation to see that a lot of those things, when you think of Italian food, a lot of those items are already in those dishes, so that really kind of brings that to light. It also kind of reinforces in that region what types of items are grown there. So you can use that in terms of social studies, geography that way, or just kind of reinforcement like, hey, let's play a game about Italy, and there will be, just right away, they'll be able to connect with that. Also, this game is really good at developing some decision-making skills and somewhat of some planning. The decision-making skills are going to come the same that I just discussed about how you're going to manage your turns, and then how you're going to, you know, where you're going to sell your goods and stuff like that. So younger kids, they may just end up wanting to go and match up the colors and sell what they have with whatever the dice is on, which is fine. It's a good way to learn the game. But even for teens and a little bit older, the strategy, you know, that will become more of developing your decision-making skills. And then also, you're going to have to plan, because as you move around, you're only moving around in one direction. So you're moving in a clockwise direction. So as you're moving around, you'll at least have a little bit of some planning as to what you're going to do on the next go around. So there's quite a bit there, you know, to offer for developing some skills and enhancing some other forms of education in terms of social studies with the game. So for me, overall, with this game, I like this game a lot, and I was a bit surprised, like I said, because this game there's more to it than I thought there would be, and I actually find myself wanting to play this game. I do enjoy it. I like the strategy, and there's so much to it that, you know, it keeps my interest, and yet the younger players can also get involved too. So I would like to recommend this game. I really, like I said, I really enjoy this one. So anyways, if you would like to be involved in traveling around and harvesting produce and selling it to little coastal villages in Italy, then do yourself a favor and pick up a copy of Cinque Terre and add it to your library and get to work. All right, that's it for now. Join me again next time as we take a look at another game and see how it makes it to the table.